It's been fascinating to witness the Labor opposition's rudderless and insipid performance during the general debate this afternoon. It won't surprise many people who have followed their confused and contradictory announcements of recent times that Labor members were so reluctant to engage with government members over current policies, or to defend their own irresponsible economic record when they were in government that contributed so significantly to New Zealand's slide into recession. Labor's record in government is now roundly and rightly condemned by economists, commentators and the electorate at large. Yet what have they learned? Well, they've learned that Ed Miliband writes better speeches than Phil Goff. They've learned from their embattled leader that David Cagle has more credibility than their current finance spokesman, presumably because Mr Cagle played no role in the economic recklessness that Labor inflicted upon New Zealand for 9 long years. They don't seem to have learned that Trevor Mallard should behave himself during question time on days when he's expected to lead Labor's charge of their ultra-light brigade in 2 measures on the same day's order paper. And on the day when we welcome the new member for the marginal seat of Mana to the House, they've recently learned that even their previously strongest supporters are deserting them. So they're probably learning that their commitment to voodoo economics is about as popular as their recent opposition to the package to save the Hobbit movies, and as credible as their commitment to higher taxes, uncontrolled government spending and welfare for millionaires. Mr Speaker, we on this side of the House and members of the public have learned a great deal from Labor's sorry and embarrassing performance, both in this debate and during today's question time that preceded it. We've learned that less than a year out from a general election, Labor is in free fall. We've learned that they lack confidence in their leadership, in their philosophical direction and in one another. They're not just working on the basis that pixies at the bottom of the garden will jump up and finance their policies, as our new poet laureate Aaron Gilmore observed earlier. They're increasingly turning to the pixies to write their policies as well. And judging by how few people turn up to any of their public meetings nowadays, or take seriously any of their utterances, it can only be a matter of time before their front bench is replaced by 5 pixies, 3 goblins and an orc. Actually, I think the orc has already joined them, which may explain why there are so many headless chooks on their middle and back benches. Mr Speaker, I'm looking forward to campaigning in Hamilton West next year on the importance of National's 6-point plan to grow the economy. Especially, Mr Speaker, when it's contrasted with Labor's 6-point plan to 1, change their leader, 2, lose the few electorates they hold at the moment, 3, increase government borrowing to levels that will reduce New Zealand to a banana-less republic. You have to wonder what they're going to feed to the poor pixies and goblins, but I digress. 4, tax anything that moves, which means their Mana campaign team will be all right, but everyone else is in big trouble. 5, bring back David Cagle, Fraser Coleman and Arnold Nordmeyer. And 6, hope that endless treks around the country on the magical mystery tour with Phil playing the ukulele and Annette warbling as long as he needs me will at least keep them away from any gathering where they might be expected to say something credible and remotely compelling. Mr Speaker, how ironic that David Parker should want to highlight a recent poll that put Labor on 28%. How fascinating that Labor is starting to hope that if they add their support to New Zealand Firsts and the Greens and Jim Andertons and the monster raving loony parties, they might just cobble together sufficient votes to get across the 5% MMP threshold next year. How insightful that Mr Parker spoke of losing the plot. If I'd dug a hole as deep and wide as the one he and his mates are still digging, I'd want to lose it too. Mr Speaker, this is the last general debate of the year, and in my usual humble fashion and the manner to which I've become accustomed, I am its final speaker. So it falls to me to perform the last rites for the lacklustre, leaderless, limp and lamentable Labor Party. And I take the responsibility seriously, knowing that as Michael Joseph Savage, Peter Fraser and Norman Kirk have spun in their graves in recent times at the shambolic efforts of their modern-day successors, the kindest act we can all perform is to find Mr Parker's lost plot, ease the whole Labor caucus into it gently and wait for some decent opposition from the pixies, fairies and goblins who will so surely have replaced them by this time next year. Merry Christmas, Mr Speaker.
The time for this debate has expired. Call on